If you are new to iPhone or if you've been using the iPhone for quite some time now, here are some few important privacy changes you need to turn on or off on your iPhone. Let's get into it. So once you're in your settings, go ahead and scroll all the way down until you find privacy and security. So under privacy and security, I would first recommend you to scroll once again all the way down until you see analytics and improvement. So under analytics and improvement, depending on your device, most of, if not all of these features should already be turned on or turned off. So basically, this is the point where you either allow or prevent Apple from getting access to your data, your privacy, as well as how you use your device. Me personally, I like to keep most of these settings turned off because I would like to keep my privacy, my data, as well as how I use my device completely restricted to just me and no one else. So with that being said, go ahead and turn off share iCloud analytics as well as share iPhone analytics. Once that's done, if you click on analytics data, you'll notice that most of, if not all of your data has already been synced and shared to Apple. So now we can prevent that from happening again. So, however, if you want to allow most of these features for some reason because you feel like they'll be beneficial to you in whatsoever reason. For example, improve Siri and dictation or improve assistive voice features. Of course, you can go back and turn them back on. I just don't see why you should, because if you think about it, Apple already released regular updates with the iOS updates, so you really don't need to if you really think about it. And also, Apple also has the right and legal right to sell and share your data, your privacy, and how you use your device to other advertisers. And in order for you to prevent that from ever happening, if you go back over here and just beneath analytics and improvement, you'll see Apple advertising. So under Apple advertising, you can just go ahead and turn off personalized ads. So basically, if you've noticed that if you're searching or looking for a certain product or even looking for a certain content on one website, and then all of a sudden something similar or the exact same thing you were looking for or talking about starts showing on Instagram, on TikTok, this is part of the reason. So go ahead and turn off personalized ads, because again, I would like to keep my personal data, the way I use my phone, and my information restricted to just me and no one else. So while we are still under privacy and security, if you scroll all the way up to location services, once again, you can just go ahead and toggle off most of these features, most of these location services, especially the ones that are not really needed. For example, here I use the Blackmagic Cam to film most of my videos. So again, there's no need for it to have my location. So just go ahead and turn off or activate never on most of them, or just while using the app. So that way your location is restricted to just you and just some of these features. But most importantly, if you scroll all the way down to system services, you would see another features that also need to be toggled off. For example, alerts and shortcut, go ahead and toggle that off. Apple Pay merchants, especially anything that has to do with money liquidation, your money, make sure to toggle that off ASAP. So basically, the first thing you'll notice as well under system services are these arrows. You'll notice that some of these arrows have colors. For example, you'll notice the purple color as well as the grayish color, right? So basically, the purple color means that your location has been used by this service recently. However, the ones with gray color means that your location has been used in the past 24 hours. So always keep that in mind and make sure to turn off most of these features. For example, emergency calls, iOS, you can keep that on, of course. Find My iPhone, you can keep that on. But most of them, if you're not really feeling like it, if they don't serve that much of a purpose, make sure to turn those off. Now, another important thing on that system services is the significant location and routes or route. So if you click on it, you'll notice that this part basically stores the most significant locations that you have visited multiple times, right? And it stores them as records. Now, these records can also be shared to Apple. So make sure to turn off this feature. And remember, if our data is being shared to Apple, Apple also has the right to sell or share these records to advertisers, i.e. YouTube, Google, Facebook, etc. You guys get the point. So always keep that in mind. And also make sure to clear your history here. That way your records will be deleted completely. Now, so far we have talked about your privacy and settings as well as your location privacy. Now let's move on to your browsing history. So if you go all the way back to your normal settings and scroll all the way down, you will see apps. Now under apps, go ahead and search for your browsing tools. For example, if you're using Google, Safari, or Chrome, go ahead and search for either one of them, or you can search for all three of them and do the exact same thing we are about to do. So for this demonstration, we are going to focus solely on Safari. So again, remember you can do the exact same thing for the other ones as well, so for Google and Chrome. However, let's focus on Safari. So under Safari, if you scroll all the way down to privacy and settings, and under privacy and settings, please don't be disturbed, because if you're using the newer iPhone series from the 15 and above, I believe you would probably have way more privacy settings here than I do, because I'm currently using the 14 Pro Max for this demonstration. So under privacy and security, you should make sure to turn on cross-site tracking. Now, cross-site tracking is exactly what I was explaining before, whereby you will miraculously see the same thing you've been looking for somewhere else on Instagram or on TikTok or even on YouTube or even on Google, because Apple basically share your information, your data to these advertisers, right? So keep that in mind. So always make sure to turn that on to prevent it from happening again. So always make sure to hide your IP address, because your IP address, as you guys know, is basically your internet protocol address, or basically your digital home or your digital address. And it basically tells devices where to send information. So keep that in mind. So always make sure to hide that from trackers. Next up, you want to make sure to turn on fraudulent website warning as well as not secure connection warnings. So that's very important under Safari. Now go ahead and do the exact same thing for Google as well as for Chrome. Now let's move on to our final settings. Now, these settings I'm about to show you will be mostly beneficial to those who are still struggling with battery life, especially those who are still using the older generation of the iPhone. So if you go out of your apps and scroll on top, you should see accessibility. So under accessibility, just go ahead and click on motion. Now under motion, make sure to not turn on reduce motion if you want to save battery life, right? Especially if you're using the older generation. Now, if you continue scrolling down, you should see autoplay video previews. You can turn that off, or like for mine, I'm still have it on because my 14 Pro Max is still doing very well. So I don't have to turn that off yet. But basically what that does is it basically previews videos on websites and certain applications. And you can turn that off as well if you want to save battery life. And now the most important feature under motion is the limit frame rate. So you can go ahead and turn that on if you want to save more battery life, because what limit frame rate does is it limits your frame rate from 120 frame rates per second to 60 frames per second. So go ahead and turn that off if you want to save battery life. And with that, welcome to the end of this video. If you guys found this video educational or helpful in any way, shape, or form, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.